Hey guys, what's up? I'm meerkatting right now. Just want to say what's going on. This is Shot Science Overtime number 109. What we do most of the time is we start off with the topic, and it's something that we hope will help you guys develop your game and make you a better player. And then while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your questions. It can be on anything basketball related: shooting, dribbling, defense, passing, talking to your coach, dribbling, whatever it is. Send us your questions, tweet them at us. We are at Shot Science on Twitter. You can snap them. We are Shot Science on Snapchat, and you can also send them to us on Facebook, Google+, or here in the YouTube stream. You can pretty much hit us anywhere. So make sure you send us your questions. It can be anything on basketball, and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can. And, while we're doing the topic, just send them to us. All right. Okay, this is hard to do double live streaming. We're going to stop this one. Yes, we are done. Okay, so send us your questions, and we're going to jump into our topic today because this is Shot Science Overtime number 109. We're getting up there on that one. So today's topic is what's a good shot revisited. And the reason that we picked this is because we get the question all the time where people are asking us, how do I shoot with a guy in my face, or how do I shoot, this crazy kind of shot where I'm contested and there's all these people all over me, and I don't think that's the best way to really approach that stuff.
Right.
What do you think?
No, there's no question about it. One of the things that you'll find if you go to our video, what is a good shot, you're going to find out kind of our opinion, and I think that's probably pretty much throughout basketball, what is a good shot. One of the things that's so important is that you understand that a lot of players force shots. I was watching some of the NCAA tournament this morning, and there were a couple of comments why did this person take that particular shot? Because it was not contested, but it was really early in the shot clock, and it was like about 23 feet. Okay, and so the point is that players really need to understand what is a good shot. And so what that means is that you are open, you are not contested. And one of the big questions that has to run through your mind, and all this happens in your mind very quickly after you get going pretty good. And what the question you're going to ask you is this an open shot? Is this a shot that I can make? Does somebody else have a better shot than me? And so you kind of have to go through that little checklist and do it really quick. And it's not that difficult, as I said. Otherwise, you're probably going to be putting up shots that are going to be contested. They're going to be blocked. The coach is going to be upset with your choice of shots, and you'll probably get a chance to go over and sit down.
Well, the thing about it, too, is that they want to know what's the secret to having a faster shot, or what's the secret to, getting this shot off before the guy can block me. Yeah. And it's like, if you're asking those questions, it's probably not a good shot.
Right.
A good shot is a shot that is open. The more open, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to any player out there, whether it's the best NBA player or a coach or whoever, they will tell you that the best shot is the more open shot.
Yeah, one that's not contested at all, or they can't do much about it.
Yeah, I mean, even a 2-foot shot that is contested is not as good as maybe a 10-foot shot that is uncontested. Right. Because as soon as you add in that element of the defender being there and contesting your shot, it adds a variable that makes it more difficult. It adds to the complexity and difficulty of the shot, because all of a sudden you're processing what they're doing, and you're worrying about if they're going to block you, or if they're going to take the ball away, whatever. As soon as you add a defender, you will see that your shooting percentage will go down.
Yeah. One of the things that's really important in this whole process of selecting good shots is you need to take and understand how to create space for your shots. A lot of players will catch the ball, they'll face up, and there'll be somebody in their grill, and they still think that they can make that shot. Well, if there's somebody who's close enough to contest the shot, get his hand up in your face, or even get a touch on the basketball, that's not a good shot. And so you need to learn how to create space. And usually that happens, the creating space thing happens when you learn how to use the dribble. And most people don't really know how to do that. The other thing is to use shot fakes.
You've jumped the gun on giving them all the answers already.
Okay. All right. Giving the good stuff away early.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
okay.
I mean, that's kind of the natural progression of that stuff anyways. But, the thing that we want to really reinforce is that a good shot is the more open shot.
Yeah.
And it's not one where you've learned to have a quick release or all of these things. Because the other thing is when it comes to shooting, you don't want to rush your shooting mechanics, or especially the release.
Well, yeah, they want to be efficient is what they want to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
And if you're rushing anything, it should be your feet and the footwork. And the way that you do that is through just really drilling that and getting the muscle memory and everything going. But if you're rushing your shooting mechanics, you will, again, lose percentage points precipitously on your shooting if you just start rushing everything, because you'll add intention, you'll probably break down your mechanics, your accuracy will drop off. So you don't want to do things like that. And you know, one of the quickest ways to find yourself back on the bench is taking these shots that are super contested, because coaches can see, you know, that's not a good shot when you're going up and there's a guy in your face, and maybe none of your other teammates are open. It doesn't matter. That's not a good shot because there was not an opportunity really created. You're forcing the issue. And players that force shots can it's essentially like a turnover, because you're forcing something in the actual payoff or percentage of that maybe going in is very low. So, you know, you can't do that kind of stuff. So back to what you were saying. Yes, the best way to have a good shot is to learn how to create space. And the way that we do that is, you know, through being able to, you know, use a dribble attack, use a shot fake, moving without the ball is another one. Without even having the ball in your hands, you can create space. But, you know, one of the things that we always try to emphasize is be in control. Don't let the defense be in control. If you are waiting back and reacting to them, you will probably never have a good shot. So you need to kind of step it up and be the one that's making these decisive decisions where you are creating the space.
Exactly. Well, here's another element that kind of comes into this that is really important too, and coaches will probably remind you of it. And that is sometimes we shoot too early in the clock. We got and I think probably every place in the country, high school and whatnot, probably has the 30 or 35-second clock. Okay, one of the things that coaches get really upset about is if you come down and you yank even a semi-contested shot too early. And the reason is there's an interesting study that I'm not going to be able to relate all of that to you, and I'm not going to anyway. But here's the thing that this study is showing. It's showing that what your percentage of made baskets are after one pass, okay, and then after 4 passes and after 6 passes. And one of the things that came to light in this study is the fact that the more passes that you make before you actually shoot the ball, the higher percentage of makes that goes with that. Well, that's something that coaches are really interested in, is that high percentage of made shots. And so if you take early shots, usually they're going to be maybe off balance, maybe they're going to be too long, maybe the other people who have better looks at the basket than you do, and so the percentage drops. The other thing is real important.
Well, I mean, before you
let me go ahead with this. Just another thought, and this was another part of this study as well. When those passes are made, there's a definite correlation from how many times the ball is passed, but also from side to side, and they call that reversals. The ball gets reversed from one side of the court to the other side and then back around. And that the percentage tends to go up when we get 3 and 4 reversals of the basketball from side to side.
Well, that makes sense because you're breaking down the defense. You're looking for opportunities. If you're just trying to force the first opportunity down the throat of the game, I mean, that's probably not the best way to approach it. But if you're kind of looking and poking holes and observing, and then the defense also has to keep reacting, and you know, people they don't really keep up the intensity and stuff if you know, it goes on for a while and things start to break down, and that's when your opportunities start to happen.
Well, you know, a thought that goes kind of along with that is that oftentimes coaches are, in fact, one of our tenets is really important, is that we want to swing the ball from sideline to sideline and actually baseline to baseline. In other words, a reversal for us is take the ball maybe on one side and it goes all the way around to the opposite baseline. Then it comes back around to the other baseline. And that reversal of the basketball usually finds somebody who's on defense who's being a little bit lazy, and something will open up. Maybe we can throw the ball into the middle. Maybe we're able to throw the ball down to the short corner. Those kind of things develop when you make a zone defense have to move. In fact, a man defense oftentimes get in that same situation.
Yeah, and if you watch like the San Antonio Spurs or something like that, they are, you know, the best at it in the NBA at getting ball reversals and moving the ball, looking for opportunities, breaking down the defense, and you know, not forcing shots or doing any crazy isolations or anything like that. And you know, that's one of the reasons why they're so successful without necessarily having the most athletic and you know, physically gifted guys. It's because they are very regimented when they come down, and they know that they're looking for the best opportunity. They're not looking for their own shot. You know, it's really whoever has the best open opportunity. And that's why they always appear so unselfish, is because they're not worried about themselves. They are worried about getting the score, and they know how to make that happen by, you know, moving the ball.
Right. And the Warriors are kind of in that same mode as well. I mean, certainly they'll come down and they'll shoot some open shots, but you'll find that they really massage the ball from side to side quite a bit before they really get a good look.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's really what we want to reinforce with you guys, is that good shots are open shots. And the way to create those shots are to use all your tools to create space. And there's so many ways to do it. And that's off the dribble, using dribble attacks, using things like shot fakes, using the hammer, using the diamond. These are all things you can see on our channel. And without the ball, I mean, you can do any of the various things that we explain on our channel too, which are, you know, back cuts, L cuts, V cuts, and all these things set you up to have even one step of space is going to give you a much better open shot than you know, having the guy contested on you. And we think that the approach that a lot of people that send us questions are kind of rationalizing is not really the best, where they're trying to rush their shots, or they're trying to learn how to jump higher or do things like that. Those are not really the best way to go about it, for multiple reasons. Number one, those are much harder to achieve. If you're trying to increase your vertical to get your shot off over somebody, that's going to take a lot of work, and B, it might not pan out the way that you hoped. And you know, the other thing is that you know, you still have to worry about the guy that's there in your face. But if you learn how to create space, you will find that you will have many more open shots than anything contested. And, you know, they may not look as spectacular because you don't have some guy that's hanging all over you when you make it, but your shooting percentage is going to be way higher. So would you rather be the guy that scores 8 points or the guy that scores 22 because he's learned how to create space?
Right. And, you know, one of the things that I really believe is that most players today don't really have the ability to score off the dribble. Now, I'm not talking about attacking the basket and finish with a layup. I'm talking about creating a space off of the dribble. And so that's an important skill for everyone to learn how to do. In fact, the situation is this: if I take one dribble and pull up and shoot, that may, but if I take 2, maybe 3 dribbles and I'm able to get up and get the shot, I'm probably going to have a better look. Well, and most players are looking for catch and shoot. Okay. And really, you need to be able to do that, but you also need to be able to vary that so that you can maybe up fake them, and then you take 1 or 2 dribbles and create that space that you want for the shot.
Well, decisive dribbles, not just 2 dribbles to dribble.
Yep.
I mean, these are dribbles that go somewhere, and you are using your footwork to create space.
Right.
Changes of speed, changes of direction. Those are the key things to remember in that. But if you're just, you know, you know, kind of going through the motions or just putting dribbles down on the floor, that's never going to create space. And that's what irritates us and a lot of other coaches too, is players that just kind of dribble for no reason. You should only put the ball on the floor to go somewhere. And if you're doing it for other reasons, then, you know, you're just kind of creating more opportunities for the defense to take it away from you. Yeah. So I think that's kind of basically what we wanted to get across to you guys. And we do have a video on our channel called "What's a Good Shot" that I think you should probably check out. We kind of explain all this and give you a few demonstrations of what we're talking about. And, you know, we just want you to kind of change your approach if it's you know, you trying to out jump somebody or trying to rush a shot. Change your approach and start thinking about creating space to get open shots. That's what makes good shots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the questions and answers section of today's live show. So if you guys have questions, make sure you send them to us in the chat here on the YouTube stream. You can send them to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can send to us on Snapchat. We are Shot Science there, and on Google Plus and Facebook and all those places. We will try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you could, please go tell your friends and family to check out our live show, because that helps us get more cool guests on. You know, I could run down the list of people we've had, but, you know, we say it every week. So just you doing that will help us get more cool guests. So let's jump into some questions. Here's one from S. Sebastian, who says, what's better, being a scorer, someone who shoots a lot, or being a passer, giving people assists, giving people scoring opportunities? Thanks.
Yeah, well, in my mind, it is a person that can do both.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is, too, understanding the difference between a scorer and a shooter. They aren't always the same person. When you do have that person that can do both of those, you've got a real jewel. But the thing is, a lot of guys can shoot the basketball, and some guys can take the ball and create offense and get to the basket or get themselves a good shot. And they're not always the same person, as I mentioned. Now, the other things, you know, setting other people up for scoring opportunities, real important as well. And I think that if you are let's say a point guard, that's probably the position where this happens more than any place else. You want to be capable of doing all of those things. You want to be able to score. You want to be able to set other people up. You want to be able to get to the basket from time to time.
Well, here's my thoughts. If you approach your development by trying to track yourself on one of these two options, you're going to pigeonhole yourself and make yourself a very, you know, less than useful player, less valuable player. What you should be doing is, like you said, trying to have both of these attributes.
Right.
And, you know, I don't understand people that are trying to be just the passer or just the shooter role player type of people, because that totally limits you. You want to be able to do everything, and for multiple reasons. Number one, for yourself, because you want to be able to make any team that you try out for. Yeah. You want to be able to play despite what positions might be open or filled or whatever. Because if you just say, okay, I'm just going to be a distributor, I'm just going to be a point guard passer guy, and you go to a team and there's 2 point guards ahead of you, you may get cut, or you may be a third string point guard and never get to play. Yeah. But what if you were able to do all these other things, and you were able to shoot and pass and play defense and, you know, move without the ball and set screens and create space and do all these, you know, very important things? What if you could step into the 2 guard or maybe even the 3 guard position and, you know, be first or second string? All of a sudden you've opened up your whole, you know, scope of what you can do and where you become a valuable player. But if you pigeonhole yourself, especially in a mental way, then you're going to be in deep trouble. Right. And now the second thing about that is, in terms of just playing for a team, nobody wants to play for a team that just has these people, some guy that scores and some guy that passes. Mm-hmm. You know, like we were talking about earlier, a good shot comes about from ball reversals and moving the ball around and looking for opportunities. If you can only do one of those things, then, you know, you've limited the opportunities of yourself and your team. So you always want to be able to score. You always want to be able to pass. Don't track yourself. That is a horrible idea.
Yeah,
truly. And, you know, there's no better reasoning for any of these. Not one is better than the other. You know, if you can set up a guy for a score, that counts just as much as you putting the ball in the basket too. So just be the guy that can do everything, and you're going to be in good shape.
Right. And taking good shots. I noticed, just looking at the comment here, well, it went away, so I've lost the thought on that one. That's okay. We'll come back to it.
Well, yeah. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. We hate seeing people that say that I want to be this, or I want to be this position or whatever. Don't do that, especially if you are a young person.
Yeah.
That limits you to no end. You want to be able to do everything. If you just focus on post moves, you know, what happens if you never grow again?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you might find yourself having to play out on the perimeter.
Right.
Okay, this is from Lawman, who is LAW Man in the chat. He says, What can make a college coach better understand your game? Well, he has no obligation to do that.
No, he doesn't. And you know, they find people of interest by happening to see people play. But the big resource for college coaches is having coaches from travel teams or AAU teams or however you want to address those, contacting them and letting them know that I have this person or several persons that you should come and take a look at. And they'll ask them, well, what kind of game do they have? And that coach will probably say, well, they happen to be 6'8". They can run the floor. They're very athletic. Shooting is okay. And so they build this little picture for the college coaches, and then college coaches, they don't have time to go watch every player in the country play. And so people feed them information constantly about the players that they might have.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Like I said, they have no obligation to look at you twice.
Yeah.
What you need to do is be very proactive for yourself. And you also need to be realistic too. A lot of times people have kind of these pie in the sky desires to play for some, top tier Division I team, and they're clearly not realistically going to be able to play there.
Right.
So you need to realistically evaluate where you would probably fit well, and then approach those coaches and teams and try to figure out a way to get yourself into those types of programs.
Yeah. Go ahead, Casey.
And, I just, like I said, they are under no obligation to pay any attention to you. So you need to make sure that your game speaks for itself. You need to be proactive in finding these places that will best benefit you, coaches and teams, and working, creatively to make that work that way. Right?
Sure. The way college coaches learn about who you are or what kind of game you have is you can send them a videotape of you playing. There's a couple of key points there, though. Number one, they don't want to see a whole video of your highlights. They'll want to see maybe 10 minutes, maybe, of things that you do and do well. Then they'll want to see at least a half of a whole game so that they can kind of see how you play over a period of time, not just in this particular situation. And so it's very important for you to keep those things in mind and be realistic. One of the problems, and I've kind of been around this for about the last 10 or 12 years, is that, and I'm not a scout or anything like that, but one of the things that is real important is that you and your parents need to be realistic about what your potential is. And to be very honest, and I don't mean this to be awful or anything, but most parents don't really understand the game of basketball well enough to tell whether you are maybe a super athlete. That's usually fairly easy to tell. A medium athlete, or one that is just kind of on the lower tiers. And because they are thinking the best of their children, whether it's male or female, and they think that this person's ready to go. Well, one of the things that really is an eye opener is that if they go to a practice or they go to a game, and I don't mean on TV, but they actually go there and see what these people that play on that level can do. Can your son or daughter do that?
Yeah,
and oftentimes they're just not very realistic about that. And I heard a story recently from a friend of mine who was telling me the story about how the parents, after 2 practices, wanted the coach to provide information about schools that their son could go play at. How in the world did he know? He's seen him 2 practices and hadn't even seen him play a game yet. And so that's unrealistic for parents to be in that particular situation.
Yeah, I mean,
be real. Be real.
A lot of people think that they can go play Division I basketball, but they've never played against a Division I player.
Right.
Go play against a Division I or a team full of Division I players on a traveling team. You will get a real, kind of a reality check right away.
Yeah. Exactly.
The other thing too, I want to just address real quick is that, you are a player and you're probably thinking about yourself and kind of, don't have a very broad view of what's going on outside of yourself. The coach, he needs to look at everybody and all the pieces and kind of have a very broad, idea of what he's trying to put together and work with. You trying to force your way into that plan is never going to work.
No.
You know, you need, that's what we were talking about earlier. You need to make yourself a valuable player, be able to do everything and anything, step in any position and be able to perform and execute. And then you don't need to do anything where you're trying to get somebody to understand your game. And I don't even get understanding your game. I mean, it's about making baskets, creating opportunities, stopping on defense. There shouldn't be any real subtleties.
Well,
you know?
there's another more direct way to say that, and that is this. If you go to a college to play, and it doesn't make any difference what level it is, it could be NAIA, it could be divisions 1, 2, or 3, you're not going to be playing your game. You're going to be playing the coach's game.
Yeah.
And he's going to see whether you fit in what he wants to do. And if you don't, like Casey said, you're not going to be going there.
It doesn't matter if you're Michael Jordan or whoever. I mean, Michael Jordan had to play for Dean Smith in Dean Smith's way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, you cannot force issues.
Right.
Okay. And then here's a tweet from Big Greco, who's at James Greco 3. He says, what recommendations can you make for players who want to try out for a college team as a walk-on?
Well, that's a great question.
We've actually done a bunch of stuff on that. If you check out our live shows with like Bobby Bramlett, Aaron Wolitzko, Ron Dubois.
Yeah.
We've done a bunch of stuff on like how people get into college programs.
Yeah.
But recommendations, I mean, like we said, be that guy that can do, or girl that can do anything and is super versatile, and your game is just undeniable. Yeah. If you are going to be a role player or pigeonhole yourself into something, that makes it way harder on you, because they're not really necessarily looking for a guy that can just do this one thing. They want a guy that can do anything. Maybe even just on the practice squad side of it. They don't want a guy that's just the shooter on the practice squad.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Well, you know, there's a friend of mine who took over at Oregon State University this year, Wayne Tinkle, and he came from Montana, University of Montana. And one of the things that happened is that with the coaching changeover, some of the players that were in the program at Oregon State left. And so they were left with not very much in the way of talent and whatnot. And so he had an open tryout that he had for people who were already at the Oregon State University. And so he was able to kind of fill out his roster with guys who, they were walk-ons. And they just had a chance, and some of them got a chance to play. And one of the coolest things that I've come across is this: in the very last game of the season, not being so much concerned about whether they were going to win it or not, he started 5 of those walk-ons who had come and tried out. I thought that was so classy for a coach to do that. Okay, so
anyway,
much for that story.
Yeah, so, like we said, be that very versatile player.
Yeah.
Here's one from Jackson Ringer, who is at BYU Jackson on Twitter. He says, I feel like my shot is going pretty well. However, I'm not very happy with its rotation. Any tips for shot rotation?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things over the years, for a lot of years, that I've heard over and over and over again, snap your wrist. Coaches telling their players to snap their wrist.
Or flick.
Flick. And we don't really buy that. And the reason for that is we want some rotation on the basketball, but not much. And the reason for it, you can go check out in our videos. But the thing that's really important with rotation is that it's going to result from your following through with the wrist and the fingers. Some people, some of my new students or beginning students will finish like this. Well, it takes us a while until we can get to the point where they have the whole wrist being part of it. And we use this called a flop finish.
Finger flop.
And if you go to our video, we have a video on it called a flop finish, where we talk about what you need to do and why it's important. I'm not going to go into all that right here.
I think let's talk about this real quick, though. But the thing about it is, people want to have like this very fast, speedy rotation.
Yep.
The problem with that is that if the ball hits the rim or the backboard and it's got that much energy in it, it's just going to careen off.
It's going to be a long rebound.
It's just going to, it doesn't have a second chance. If you have a gentle rotation, it's not something where it's just kind of, spinning like a top. Gentle rotation, you're really hoping that the ball will just die on the rim, and it'll give you a second chance where, you get the shooter's touch and it'll just fall in.
Right.
If you have too much pent up energy in the ball, it's just going to, fling off. So
it expends that energy when it makes contact with that hard surface.
So when people are talking about flicking and snapping, I mean, there's a lot of tension and it's very harsh movement. But if you're working on having a finger flop, relaxed shot, and if you watch any of the great shooters, they all have this very relaxed finger flop where their hand even bounces at the end. What you want to do is make sure that you are finishing and it flops. There's not any tension. That's tension. It shouldn't look like that. It should very much flop. And that hurts my wrist when I do the very tense one. But go watch our video on just a super slow motion video on the Phantom. You can see that there is just a very gentle bouncing and flop when you release the ball. And it comes off these two fingers to give you control with these 2 points of contact. Okay?
Let me run a little bit more by on that.
All right.
A number of years back, I came across a study that was done by a scientist, and I can't remember where it was from. I think it was from Florida someplace. It was a college professor. And one of the things he was interested in is the best rotation for distance and the best angle of approach to the basket. And one of the things that he arrived at is that he thought that the best angle of attack for your shot should be somewhere between 45 and 55 degrees as it is coming toward the basket. That gives you the best situation from his study. The other is that when you're shooting the free throw, he thought that the best rotation on that was two complete rotations from the free throw line to the basket. Now, certainly that's going to alter even from shooter to shooter, shot to shot. Okay, so anyway, that gives you some sense of how fast that ball maybe needs to turn.
Yeah, gentle. That's really the key. You shouldn't be out there measuring anything really. I mean, it's very gentle flop finish. Okay, this is from Sir Joak, who says, what do I do when the point guard always ball hogs? And he also sent us a tweet, I believe. Okay, so if a point guard is always ball hog, this is something that probably is an issue that your coach needs to address.
Exactly right.
Not so much you.
Exactly.
Because the thing about it is, if somebody is a ball hog, it's very apparent to everybody, not just you.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe this is something that you can obliquely address with your coach and just say, hey coach, it seems like so and so is kind of capitalizing on the ball or monopolizing on the ball. Maybe we could work more on moving the ball around or something. You don't want to be the guy that's just the tattletale on this, because coaches don't like that either. Yeah. So this is not really your issue that you should be addressing. You should probably not be addressing it with that guy because that never turns out well.
Well, there's another issue.
I was going to say, okay, whatever, okay. Go for it.
Another issue is this: he may not want to share the ball with you because he doesn't trust you. And what that trust comes down to is do you catch the ball and take poor shots? Do you catch the ball and turn it over? And if that's the case, he's not going to share it with you. You have to be solid with the basketball. You've got to take and pass it strong and take good shots. Well, otherwise, they don't want to give you the basketball, and that might apply to everybody on your team.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, is that you need to make it undeniable that you need the ball, or that you're open and that you deserve the ball. So that's why you need to be moving without the ball, creating space. And if you're wide open and your guy isn't getting you the ball, he's the one that looks like the idiot, because he's not giving you the ball when obviously you're open and you should be getting it and the opportunity is with you. But if you're just standing there and you're expecting him to give you the ball just because you're there, I mean, that's not going to happen, and that shouldn't happen. You don't deserve it. So make sure that you are making it undeniable that you deserve the ball, and then it makes him look worse because he's not giving it up.
But the bottom line is your coach is responsible to take care of that.
Yep. You don't want to get into that with that guy. That's never works well. Okay, this one is from Harry December, who says, where should your hand be on the ball while shooting, like the grip? He says, also, do you need strength to shoot deep? Okay, we'll do these real quick because we have videos on them. When you put your hand on the ball, it just needs to be on the ball like this. And you should have a finger spread and make sure that you have this little space right here. Do the one finger test so that the ball is not on your palm. But you're mostly just keeping the ball pinched between these two fingers, and it's a very gentle touch, right?
Yeah, it's a very, it's a grip, but not really tight.
Yeah.
And it allows you to control a basketball a lot better when you do that. If you shoot the ball off of the palm of your hand, you aren't really gripping the ball. The ball is just kind of sitting there, and it can roll sideways just a little bit when you
shot
it.
Shot put.
Yeah.
So make sure that you kind of just have a very gentle grip on it. It's nothing where you're squeezing, because if you squeeze, then you're adding tension to your shot and your mechanics, and it's just going to all break down.
Yeah.
And also, you ask about whether you need strength to shoot from deep. You need to develop your mechanics in close and use something like the form shooting drill and work yourself progressively back to actually build up the strength and the innervation, the muscle memory and everything, so that your shooting mechanics don't break down. People think that if they just, start doing squats or something like that, they're going to be able to shoot from way deep. That's not really how it works. You need to put all the pieces in motion and get that muscle memory and get your muscles used to that motion and step back progressively. Because if you don't do that, then, if you work in close and then you step back to 20 feet and you think that your mechanics are going to be there the same way they are if you're in close, they won't be, because you haven't put in the effort and the work to have it there.
Right. And there's some other elements that you want to keep in mind as well. Number one is that the way your body is built and whatnot, your strength is really in the lower part of your body, the largest muscles that you have in your body. Including your butt, which is nothing more than big muscles, and in the shoulders and arms and whatnot. Most of us regular people aren't very massive there, so the strength is really not there so much. So we want to draw on the strength of the lower body by connecting those to the stroke. If you go to our video on make the three-pointer, get your legs into it, you'll understand more what we're talking about there as far as strength and how to use it when you shoot. We've got young players, some of them 7th, 8th graders, who have no difficulty in shooting the three ball, but they have learned how to connect the legs to the stroke to give them the power.
I think connecting all the moving parts is the most important thing, because that creates efficiency.
Yeah. One of the other things is that when we start trying to get more shoulder into it or arms into it, then we rack our shoulders trying to get that extra power, and usually the accuracy just really falls off the table.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. This one is from Max Eckhart, who says, I can easily hit mid-range jumpers without jumping much, but I have problem with shooting threes because it seems like I'm not strong enough, although that can't be the issue, and I always miss short. How can I fix that? You have the same problem.
It's the same problem.
You have not worked to have that range yet, and so you need to use something like the form shooting drill to really be able to get your muscles and the efficiency of working all the working pieces together into one fluid motion. Let's see. This one is from Ned Purnell, who says, nobody on my team plays big man. What strategies could we implement to fill this role?
I'm not sure what that question is relating to.
Well, I mean, I guess you might not play in the traditional sense then. I don't know. I mean, maybe you work more on having an up-tempo game. But, somebody's probably going to step in and play in the post at some point. And, like we said before, every player needs to be able to have the ability to play all positions and do all aspects of basketball. So people should be able to play in the posts.
Well, and let's say that you're looking at it from this point of view, that you have a team that does not have a big man on it. And what strategies could you use to make that all work for you? Well, like Casey said, that's when usually you're going to have smaller players probably who are going to be quicker, and you can extend the defense and put more pressure on the other team before they can even get in the scoring zone. That always really helps an awful lot, because a lot of teams are not very effective when they attack presses, and they have difficulty with different types of presses. But you extend the game full court, and you take the big man's role out of the game.
Yep.
Here's the other thing too, is that when you're pressing the other team, if you can develop a smart approach to your press, then what happens is that the other team's offense, their half-court offense, breaks totally down. They can't even use it. Then it begins to look more like street ball.
Okay, so let's move on.
Okay.
This one's from Willie Will, who's at KingWill14 on Twitter. He says, past 2 years, I've been high school freshman assistant coach. I've been offered the opportunity to coach 5th and 6th graders or 7th graders. Which would be a better learning experience? Should I do more skill development with 5th or 6th graders?
Well,
I don't think that's not something that we can really answer. I mean, there's
sure.
5th and 6th graders and 7th graders. There's not too much difference.
Well, one of the things when you develop, are you working with younger kids, and if they're 5 or 5th grade, they're probably in what about they're about 11 years
10 or
old,
11
10 or
years
11
old.
years old. What we've found is this, is that it's really difficult to teach those people that young, really intricate skills, because they don't retain it. Their focus is not there for very long.
A lot of people are at different levels of development and stuff at that point too.
Yeah. And so probably the better satisfaction probably would come from maybe coaching the 7th or the 8th grade team. I don't know if you mentioned. You would probably get more satisfaction, and that's where you really want to get into skill development. When you're working with teams that are made up of young players, and I'm not talking about varsity players, but young team that you want to spend time teaching them how to play the basketball game. One of the things that is such a criticism, and I see it every day on the internet, of people, they're saying that the skill level in basketball is really going downhill. I think that's probably true. People are more enamored with those players that are extremely athletic, but not everybody is athletic. So if you can help them develop their skills, they'll be more successful as players too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to think about too is that the younger the people are, the more fun it has to be.
Yeah.
And it should be fun anyways. But you can't just be a drill sergeant on 5th and 6th graders, because that's not the way it should be.
Right.
And that's not going to make them want to play more. It's just going to turn them off.
Right.
And they will not like you. Okay, let's start cranking through some of these. There's a lot of questions here. Let's see. Paolo says, I'm 6 foot center. Yes, center. And I'm 14. I don't have a great shot, but I made a great mid-range shot. I make at least 8 to 10 shots I shoot for mid-range. I can shoot threes too, and I've got some bounce, so I can reach the NBA rim. I just want to say I don't want to be a center. I want to be a 3 or a 2. I'm a center just because I'm tall. So how do I say to my coach, I don't want to be a center. I want to play the 3 spot.
You can tell your coach anything you want, but he's going to utilize your size and your skills to best fit the team that he has. And so you don't have much choice. Here's what we recommend to everybody, and that is that you develop your skills to play any position in basketball, because you first of all want to be a basketball player. You're 6 feet now, and if 3 years from now, you might be 6'2". And so you don't want to be in that post position, maybe being at 6'2". And so you can help yourself get out of it if you can develop your ball skills. You can develop your ability to attack the basket. You can have the ability to shoot the ball from the perimeter. All of those are good things to be able to do, even if you're a post player.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, is that if you play in the post, you're not stuck there. You're not sitting on a chair or anything like that. You can move outside and pull a guy away from the basket and do some things that make you kind of more of a perimeter player. But the thing is that you just need to make sure that your game is extremely versatile, and maybe your coach will decide to put you on one of those positions in different rotations or something like that, and have play the center at some times, maybe move out and play the 4 or the 3 at some other times. But the thing is that you need to make the best of your situation. Make sure that you are able to play at all these positions anyways, because maybe you play on a different team during the summer or something like that, and
or you
that might be a different
another
situation.
School and that spot that you want maybe is not available. But the most important thing is you want to develop yourself to be an all-around basketball player. A guy maybe who can play the 3, the 2-3, and can go inside and post somebody up. I mean, that's really important to be able to do that.
All right, here's one from Teak Lopez or Yopis. I don't know how to pronounce that, but they say, when I dribble and cross people out, how can I overcome the pressure from the other team and the people in the audience? Why are you worried about that stuff, man?
Yeah. Quit worrying about things like that. You can't control that. And why do the people in the audience have any effect on you at all? It's kind of interesting for me, because I can remember as a player, I was able to, I didn't try to block it out, but I didn't hear the people in the stands at ever. I heard my coach's voice and my teammates' voices, but I never heard anybody say anything from the stands that I recall, except maybe during a timeout or something like that. So
Well, I mean,
you're worried about the wrong things.
Yeah. Why? I mean, the thing is that if you want to be in the right mental space, you should not be listening to any of that stuff. You should be focusing on the game and worrying about, what is happening in the possession that you have right in that moment. If you can get taken out of your game by the crowd, I mean, that's makes you, kind of a nullified player. You've been eliminated by the sixth man.
Well, you're also saying the other team, well, maybe they're talking trash to you. One of the worst things possible is to respond to people who are talking trash to you. And this is the response that you're showing right here, that you don't like it and it doesn't feel good. Well, ignore it. The only way that people continue to talk to you and talk trash to you is because they get a response from you. Ignore it.
I mean, this is all stuff that makes no difference except if you let it. So just put it out of your mind. Who cares what anybody else thinks? It does not matter at all. Who cares what anybody else says? Laugh it off. It doesn't mean anything.
No.
They could tell you the worst thing in the world and whatever. That's your issue, buddy. So whatever. I mean, just move on. Okay, James John is asking how to grow taller. You can't make yourself grow taller. It is all part of your genetics. There is a very small element of environment and your diet and things like that, but you cannot force yourself to grow inches or anything like that. No. If you have a nice, well-balanced diet, then you will reach your potential, which is your genetic potential. Yeah. Look at your parents. Generally, that's kind of where you're going to fall.
Yeah.
You're 6'2". I'm 6'2". My brother Chase is 6'2". My brother Connor, he's like 6'3", 6'4". So, I mean, you're going to come out probably around the same height as your parents. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Andrew Collins asks, what's the best way to get a good roll when it hits the rim for a shot?
Well,
quickly.
The best way to get it is have a soft release. The soft release really gives you a nice roll. It's going to be, the rebound is probably going to be short. And if you've got a nice arc, that's the other element that's really important. The ball will tend to stay around and above the basket.
Okay, this one's from Michael Ayatene, I guess. He says, my finals are in 2 days. Could I have some tips in my arsenal to be unpredictable on the offense, please? 2 days is not the best time to start working on developing any kind of skill.
No. You should go in and play the best that you can play. If you try and play and be somebody you're not yet, you're going to be wasting your time and you will be a turnover machine.
Yeah, I mean, here's some simple things that you could do. Shot fakes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you could probably incorporate into your game in a day or two, but you haven't utilized them in a game or anything yet now, but I mean, maybe give that a shot. I mean,
if you had 2 months, or 2 weeks, maybe there's some things, but you're too far into it, right?
Yeah.
now.
I mean, just play your game and stop worrying about anything. I mean, if you've already gotten to the point where you're in the finals, right? So, I mean, you must be doing something right. You're not gonna make some breakthrough in the next 2 days.
No.
Okay. Let's see. This one is from Mr. Flawless 47, who says, when I shoot, I have good arc, but not much power. But when I put power and arc into my shot, it doesn't make a basket.
Well, that's not a guarantee that if you have nice arc and power, that it's going to be a make. One of the things you really need to do is develop the actual shooting mechanics so that they work for you. And that's the whole thing that comes down to having really good mechanics. And we recommend that you use our form shooting drill and you begin to get that rolling for you. And as you get that form shooting working for you and develop the muscle memory along with the arc and all of that is the thing that really makes you be able to shoot the ball effectively. You can't just have just those two elements and not the muscle memory with good mechanics.
Right. Okay. Here's one from Keith Dymack, who says, yeah, I just scored 30 points yesterday, but I missed like 5 of 12 free throws and I practiced them a lot.
We don't know how you miss them. They may be short. They may be right, left. But one of the things I think if we do, what's the name of our interactive videos there, Casey?
Fix Your Shot.
Yeah. We will go look at those.
Yeah.
That'll probably help you.
I think one of the things too is that people think too much about free throws. I mean, if your mechanics are there, you should be okay. But when you get into a game and you're thinking about things too much, that can really sabotage you. And, you know, we were talking last night about guys that stare too long at the rim before they shoot the free throw. And it's like they're sitting there with the ball, just staring at the rim. And it's like they've psyched themselves out. You know, all you have to do is take the ball. You've shot this thousands of times, hopefully. So take the ball, and as you're going into your shot, then you look at the rim. I mean, you don't need to sit there and ice yourself. And the other thing is that you need to make sure that you're not just standing there waiting for the ball or waiting for the ref to throw you the ball, or after you make the shot, then you just stand there. You need to move around, make sure that you're not just icing yourself, right?
Yeah, truly. Over the years, the thing that I've noticed is that players who go to the line and they take the ball and they bounce that thing 5 or 6 times, and there's so much hesitation, there's almost a guaranteed miss there. And I'm not sure why, but I like Casey's approach, and this is what we teach. You come up there, you take a deep breath, blow it all out, take a half breath, and if you've got a little routine of some kind, maybe a little pitch or something, pick the ball up and let's go. Don't waste time.
Yeah, the more complicated your routine is, the more things that can go wrong, the more things that pop into your head. Do it simple. You know, you don't get style points. Remember, you only get the points you put on the board. So make sure that you're being efficient, even with your routine.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one from James Davis, who says, does the idea of good shot selection change with skill? Because I see a lot of NBA stars take heavily contested shots frequently and get away with it. And a player like me is taught not to take those shots. Okay, there's a lot of reasons for this. Number one is that you know, they are dealing with a ton of athleticism, and they are also dealing with playing against guys that are freaks of nature when it comes to athleticism and defense and stuff. And they basically have to figure out ways to make those shots.
Yeah, they do. And you know, the game of professional basketball is different than other levels below it. And a lot of it has to do, like Casey says, with just the innate athletic ability of some of these guys that are playing on those higher levels.
And they have body control and all this, you know, crazy stuff that somebody that's 14, 15 years old does not have.
Exactly right. And
they're dealing with a very physical game.
Yep.
That you probably are not playing in. You know, you're not having guys that weigh 260 banging on you.
Right. And one of the things that is real here is that they're looking to be fouled. You know, and sometimes that's not what you and your coach are wanting, is to look for you to lean in and maybe get a bump from somebody. They know that maybe I can't make this shot because it's going to be contested, so I'm trying to get my body into them.
And here's the other thing too: it makes you less consistent if you are trying to play that game. Sure, maybe you're going to have a game where you make a lot of these circus shots that you throw up and go in. You know, if you watch somebody like Russell Westbrook, sometimes he has games where he just cannot hit anything.
Right.
And then he has games where he just is throwing things up there that you can't even believe. And you know, it's you don't want to put yourself in the position where you are taking these shots that are low percentage, and maybe you have a very off game, and it's going to make it even worse for you in that situation. You want to take the highest percentage shots that you possibly can. And it just doesn't seem like it makes sense to approach your game trying to add complexity and trying to add in these lower percentage shots when that's not how you get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely true.
And doing anything like NBA players is not advised, because those guys, they're playing at a level where things are different, not just in the rules, but also in the body types and the competitive
the
level
ability too.
Yeah, and the competitive level. And you know, it's just I don't understand how somebody 15 years old is trying to emulate somebody from the NBA. That doesn't make any sense. Take foundational elements, build your game from there, and then you may get to the point where you are in the NBA, but you have done it the most efficient, optimized way, where you have built things because of your body and your abilities and built from the ground up, instead of trying to force yourself into some you know, mold that is not you.
Well, and it wouldn't be you for a few years yet. So anyway,
and that's hard to convey to people, but I mean, that's really the case. Work on you and do the best road that's best for you. Okay, let's see. This one's from Seth Coulter, who says, hey guys, just wondering, what can I do if my coach is showing favoritism towards one player, as in always telling them great job and that they carried the team, even though I did just as good, if not better?
Well, that's a tough one to swallow sometimes, but you know what?
Number one, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
It sucks, but it's not on you.
Yeah, and what you should do is just forget about that and just go ahead and play. I mean, a lot of times you're not going to get the hurrahs that you think you deserve, and that's the way it goes in this cruel world. What you need to do is forget about it and just play.
I mean, yeah. I mean, do you need a high five or a pat on the back every time you do something? I mean, you're not going to get it, especially the higher levels of basketball you go. Do you think that the guys that are coaching all these NCAA guys in the tournament, do you think that they're hugging those guys and giving them high fives all the time or anything like that? Watch an NBA game. Those coaches aren't doing much with those players either. Yeah. So, you really just need to make sure that you are performing and that, if you feel good about the way you're playing and you seem to work in the team, then good. Yep. That's where you need to be. A lot of times too, coaches, they do have favorite people and they do have guys that they've been working with for a long time or that have some kind of other connection or whatever. And you can't force yourself in there or insert yourself or make yourself more endeared to that guy. You just need to make sure that you are doing what you can do. Okay, we're going to lightning round this because we're down to the last 3 minutes. So this one's from Smooth Swing TV, who says, how often should you practice a day?
Well, once a day is fine. I don't believe in going and practicing like 4 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. You can certainly do that, but I would break it up and go something like this. Maybe go work on your skill development, maybe for an hour and a half, and then go find a place to play. Maybe play for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But
yeah, okay.
You don't want to just kind of kill yourself with just the drilling.
Yeah, I mean, you need to weigh it to what's best for your priorities, and also use the 3 pillars of practice, right?
Yep.
So you're going to get some good dialing in, slow down, diligent practice. You're going to get some game speed, game intensity practice, and get some game experience, and then you're going to be kind of well off there. But you need to figure out the balance on that stuff. This one's from Point Guard Nation, who says, how to handle tough defense. I mean, guys who are trying to steal the ball all the time.
Learn how to protect the basketball.
Learn how to create space.
Yeah, and learn how to create space. You'll often see point guards, he'll make a hard dribble or two, and then they'll step away from him, and they create that big gap in there. And so that's a big point there. It's just, if they're really tough, drive them hard and separate from them, and you'll find that pressure is relieved for you. And by the way, your English is not bad.
This one's from Spacey and Baller, who says, should your shooting form just come naturally?
No.
I mean, it's a complex movement. There's a lot of moving parts.
It really is. Just think how complex swinging a golf club is and trying to hit that little bitty ball and try to hit it 200 or 300 yards. The thing is that it takes time to learn the mechanics of how to swing that golf club. Same thing is true when you're trying to learn how to shoot the ball. I heard this the other day from a student and his parents. Well, 2 coaches had told them he'll get it. He'll develop his own shot. Well, some people maybe do, but for the most of them, they don't develop those unless they have some decent mechanics to start with.
Yeah, and that gives you a better start anyways. And you don't want to start with wonkiness and then try to work that out later. Ball is Life TV says, do you want to set a shooting form on a pull-up jumper? On a pull-up jumper, you should have the footwork down so that when you are pulling the ball up or you're catching the ball in the catch, the footwork is already doing its job, and it's halfway done by that time, and you're going right up into your shot. You don't want to catch, set, shoot. You don't want to do that because that's going to take time, and also you won't have the rhythm built up by using your feet. So go check out our shooting videos, and we kind of explain that a little bit more. Tower Packer says, what's the difference between D1 and D2 college basketball?
Well, the biggest difference is that the more athletic and the more let's see, it's
a combination of athleticism, skill, competitive level,
size, and all of that is kind of the element of a D1. Now, there are a lot of players who are playing at the D2 level who can maybe play on D1 teams, but they just weren't selected. The process for selection to come and play on D1 teams is very thorough, and they don't have too many people that they have to weed out. And a lot of those people that are not able to get onto a D1 club, you'll find them playing more at the D2. And if you're having problems with grades or anything like that, you'll find that even though you might be a really good player, you often have to start out at the junior college level.
Okay, I'm going to do these 2 real quick. This one's from Z Gamer Master, says, what's easier, a center becoming a point guard or a point guard becoming a center? This is due to height. You should just be a basketball player. Don't worry about these positions. You should be able to go from any position and play. And you shouldn't focus on any one. Okay, this one's from Harry December, who says 4 fingers down or index finger plus. If you're wondering, I'm in 8th grade. And then he says, when shooting, should the ball come off your palm and then finger pads, or should it never touch your palm? Okay, we talked about this a little earlier. The ball should stay on your hand here. It should never touch your palm. It should just be on the finger pads. And when you release the ball, it's not necessarily 4 fingers down, but what happens is the ball comes off of these 2 fingers here, because this gives you stability. If it's just one, you don't have stability. If you add in that second point of contact, suddenly the ball is much more in control of, you are in much more control of the ball. So when the ball comes off, you need to release and then flop your wrist. And it's just a nice finger flop. And you can see all of that on our basketball, or, our YouTube channel with all of our shooting videos. Okay, last question. This one is from Faizan Khan, who says, I'm a skinny kid and I'm trying to gain more muscle. Will that screw up my shot and muscle memory? Okay. So many guys, young guys, are trying to add muscle and size and all this stuff. And the fact of the matter is that you should spend more time developing your skills than you should investing in putting muscle on your body. Because number one, the payoff is not going to be anywhere near as much as you think it is. Just because you add 10 pounds of muscle, if you're able to do that, it doesn't make you a better player in the way that I probably think that you think it does. But if you spend the time that you would have spent doing that, working on your game, that will make you exponentially better than it would if you had spent that working on adding muscle or developing muscles and stuff. Right. And, this is coming from somebody that goes to the gym every day. So, I just don't think the payoff is there, especially for younger people. Spend the time working on your basketball game. Things that you can do are use body weight exercises and do conditioning things that are specific to basketball. So like interval training, sprints, and suicides, and jump rope, and doing push-ups, pull-ups, bounds. There's so many things you could do, but don't worry about adding on muscle and stuff. I mean, you're a kid and you're probably going to mature and develop as you go. And the payoff will be mostly in if you spend your time working on developing your skills, right?
That's absolutely right.
All right, so that's going to do it for us today, you guys. If we missed your question, that's not because we didn't like you, it's because we just ran out of time. We'll be back next weekend, Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, to do another live show. If you have your question that you want us to answer before then, you can send it to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. We are on Snapchat. We are Shot Science there. And on Snapchat, we also post stuff every day, just little tips and clips of drills and things like that. So follow us there. You can also send us your questions on Facebook, Google+, here in the chat on this YouTube stream. And also, if you have a question that you think fits a specific video that we've already posted, post there, because we usually get back to those a little bit more quickly than we would otherwise. Okay. So that's going to do it for us today, you guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time, guys.
Thanks.